I'm Brian Foster, and this is the Grindhouse Institute. On each episode of this podcast, Jeremy Floyd and I program a triple feature movie night. Each of the movies share common themes, and we discuss them here. We're happy you could join us for today's block we call Inspiring Raiders of the Lost Ark. In the summer of 1981, the team of George Lucas and Steven Spielberg released a film that was over a decade in the making. The movie was a tribute to some of their favorite films and serials, a swashbuckling tale of good versus evil anchored on one of the most iconic heroes to grace the screen, whose life pursuit to preserve our world's history brings him, as well as the audience, on a global excursion to several beautiful and mysterious locales. Today's block has the Grindhouse Institute team putting on our fedoras and leather jackets as we raid tombs, dodge blow darts, and most importantly, avoid having our faces melted off by some lightning, fire, power of God, or something. That's right, folks, today we're looking at the films that inspired the greatest action-adventure movie of all time, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Harry Steele, adventurer, babe magnet, and tour guide, finds himself one step closer to obtaining the coveted Peruvian golden idol, the ancient Incan sunburst. Sporting an all-too-familiar leather jacket, fedora, pistol tucked in his trousers, and leather side satchel, the inspiration for Raiders is quite clear. Charlton Heston stars as Harry Steele in 1954's Secret of the Incas. After being sent to a penal colony in French Guiana, Papillon, along with new acquaintance Louis Degas, is forced to find a way to escape the horrific prison over and over and over and over. Pappy's fearless attempts at freedom take him to several exotic locales where he encounters a wide array of characters, including trappers, hunters, lepers, and guys who shoot blow darts at him. I cannot recommend this one enough. Steve McQueen and Dustin Hoffman star in the 1973 film Papillon. The year is 1936 and a team of top men enlists the help of mild-mannered college professor Dr. Indiana Jones. His mission? To infiltrate the ancient city of Tanis to recover the Ark of the Covenant, an ancient artifact that Hitler believes will make his army invincible. Harrison Ford stars in 1981's Raiders of the Lost Ark. Thank you for listening to the Grindhouse Institute. Please enjoy.
Welcome to Cusco, City of Life. I'm Harry Steele. The airlines asked me to guide you around the city. 100 soles a day, each.
You're a big one. Is guiding people fun?
That depends where they want to go.
I wouldn't want to miss anything.
I'll see what I can do.
All right, welcome back to the Grindhouse Institute. I'm your host, Brian Foster. With me, as always, is Jeremy Floyd. Hello, and how are you?
How did you know I had dry leprosy?
You're not contagious anymore? Welcome back. Yes, we are talking about a very special film for everybody that's on this podcast today, myself included. We are talking about movies that inspired Raiders of the Lost Ark. And with us is a special guest to deliver this block for us. Jeremy, would you mind doing the introduction?
Yeah, we were planning on doing another episode of this inspiring series. And, you know, this one, I think, more so than our last one, has a lot of much more obvious connections. And what greater way to dig into some of those connections than someone who's a huge, huge fan of Raiders of the Lost Ark, fellow filmmaker and, Tiki nerd, Alex Lamb.
Thanks, guys, for having me. It's awesome to be here.
Yeah, welcome. I'm so glad somebody suggested doing an Indiana Jones film. I think that's one we haven't touched yet, and I was very excited to watch Raiders probably for the 500th time of my life, I would say. Yeah, at least.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, even watching it now, I knew every line, and I couldn't believe I remembered them. But it's definitely one of those annual watches, so thanks for bringing it.
Although, no matter how many times you watch it, every time they're doing the drinking contest, when she starts to, pass out and fall over.
Bastade!
It's not, the timing always gets me. It's always a surprise. It's crazy.
Pistore!
I mean, that when that guy takes that shot and just slowly passes out, it's just such a good gag. So what are we watching today? If you don't mind introducing the block, Alex, we'd love to hear about it.
Yeah. So the first thing we're watching is Papillon. It's French for butterfly. This one was a great film. I had never seen it. Nobody had ever even told me about it. I feel like I was kind of gypped that I'm here in my mid to late 30s hearing of Papillon for the very first time. It was an amazing adventure.
And we could have easily put this one as the inspiring series for Shawshank.
Sure.
But
yeah,
it had an interesting place in this lineup.
We're also watching Secret of the Incas.
Yeah, Charlton Heston, from 53, is that right?
54.
54, yeah. This was an exciting one, too, and I was telling Jeremy before this, clearly no inspiration for Raiders of the Lost Ark. The main character walking around in a fedora and leather jacket for the entire movie with a beard and everything. There was a map room. It had everything. Like, it had all of the things.
I was amazed at how much of a ripoff Indiana Jones actually is. I had zero idea.
Yeah, it really is. Like you talk about like Tarantino doing like kung fu movies and such, like Kill Bill, but these guys were doing serials, same kind of thing. Just like fans of these films when they were growing up as kids, and they just did their big epic movie versions of
This
them.
is like one step away from when they made Psycho, just frame by frame, the exact same movie.
Right.
It almost felt like I couldn't believe when I was watching it. I was like, why is he dressed like Indiana Jones? I was so confused because they talk about like, oh, the inspiration for Raiders of the Lost Ark was all these old serial movies, and like nobody ever mentioned, oh, there's also this one movie that literally is Indiana Jones. It was made in the 50s.
Yeah.
We stole the character, we stole the costume, we stole the maps made out of stone.
Yeah. Shining the sunlight to find the hidden treasure.
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff. And but what else is kind of crazy is that like not only is it in some ways inspiring the Indiana Jones character, I think most of that was in the costuming and perhaps some of that pursuit that the Harry Steele character was into. But also, like, especially in the first act, Harry Steele was very much Han Solo.
Yeah.
Same initials, too.
Yeah. I was thinking of him more as like Sam Malone from Cheers, just like dressed as Indiana Jones, but walking around trying to hook up with girls for money. Like that, and that was a very weird side plot in the whole movie that they were like,
well, most men don't like taking money from women.
Yeah.
It's the best kind. It's the hardest to get, and it always smells so good.
If you're wondering how you're going to pay me without hurting my feelings, Miss Morris, forget it. Just take out your roll and start counting.
So wait, so in this instance, it would be Sam Malone if he wasn't a baseball player. He was like a former adventurer or whatever he was that became a tour guide.
Exactly.
As opposed to owning a bar.
But it.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, a bar that only serves pisco sours.
Yeah, that's all they drank in this, right?
Exactly.
To me, seemed like a very complicated drink to make in that bar. Maybe like any drink with egg whites isn't a drink that I think I would order in that specific bar.
That is a good drink, though.
Well, they were popular down there. Actually, around this time, it became even more popular. For whatever reason, there were a lot of celebrities like John Wayne and Ava Gardner and Orson Welles traveling to Lima, Peru, and because of that, the press got all excited that there was a drink that they were drinking down there.
Interesting.
A pisco sour in a tall glass.
So, Secret of the Incas, like we said, Harry Steele is a tour guide that has aspirations of, I think, striking it rich with this a specific target of treasure, this disc from ancient Peru. The Incas used this as, I guess it was their way to worship the sun, but this thing is worth $1 million at the time, I think they said. So it was like a golden disc covered in all sorts of diamonds and jewels.
Yeah, did they give a a value to it.
Yes.
Yeah. I think the dude, the buddy or whatever his name was like, just think it like we'll have $1 million this time tomorrow.
The Uncle Billy character from It's a Wonderful Life.
But also he was like the bad version of Marcus from Raiders of the Lost Ark. He kind of resembled Denholm Elliott, and like it was like, but he was the jerk version, you know?
Yeah.
It's funny. It felt like it was going to play like that when the Uncle Billy character, what's the name of the movie? Morgan. Yeah, not Marcus Brody, but Morgan.
Morgan Brandon.
I was like you once. Came down here to teach them the score. Quick million and then home. 14 years I've been waiting for a line on that Inca treasure.
It seemed like he was playing the same sort of role where he tells Harry all about this legendary treasure or whatever. Very much like when Marcus is talking to Indy before he like throws the gun in the suitcase and all this. I mean, it's funny, like the Brody character has very little to do in Raiders. I kind of forgot about that. Like, he's more of a character, I guess, or has more screen time anyway.
Last Crusade,
in the third one.
Yeah, but he's still very good, and he's my favorite part of how they're bouncing off the information off of each other when they're talking to the government, when they're talking to Porkins, and Edgart from Batman, right. When they're like explaining, the lightning fire god.
Haven't you ever been to Sunday school?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but Indy would say something, and then Marcus would like finish the sentence and everything. I just thought that was a great scene, man.
They put the Ark in a place called the Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem, where it stayed for many years. Until all of a sudden, whoosh, is gone.
However, an Egyptian pharaoh
Shishak.
Invaded the city of Jerusalem around about 980 BC, and he may have taken the Ark back to the city of Tanis.
But I did want more Marcus in Raiders, even watching it for the 1000th time.
Yeah.
I'd still like more of him in that, yeah.
I love that he takes the apple, that the that like the closeted gay 1930s college kid leaves on the desk, and Marcus just takes it.
I had it, Marcus. In my hand.
Back to Secret of the Incas, but before we even get started on the adventure looking for the giant bejeweled plate, the movie opens with the sort of exotica song by Ima Sumac. That was the same song that was like playing at Jackie Treehorn's beach party while they were on the little trampoline thing.
Exactly.
The movie started, and I imagined like naked women in slow motion going up and down on a trampoline, and then that text pops up, and it's like in Peru, where most of this movie was filmed. And I'm like, that's such a weird thing to say at the beginning. Like, nobody would put that at the beginning of a movie now. Like, we filmed this.
Breaking the
so you guys know, we did go here to actually film this. It's not a set. They had to put that at the beginning so you would know.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It was quite beautiful, though, that they were filming really at Machu Picchu. And like, that was all pretty legit. It's quite grand.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, hopefully the crew didn't wreck too much of it.
I was going to say, like, trampling around on there, that was probably worse than the archaeological dig that they were portraying on screen.
Right, exactly.
Trampling around with cameras and audio equipment.
I didn't know that the term cultural appropriation went back to the 50s, but the archaeologist was kind of like wink, wink, like, oh, he's just here to make sure we don't appropriate all of the culture, like, because they're stealing artifacts.
Right. Yeah. Appropriate.
Dr. Livingston, I presume.
Moorhead is my name. We don't have a Livingston with our expedition. Oh, sort of a joke. It's very amusing.
How funny was it when? Oh my God! What's the name of the woman? Elena. When she first sort of lands in Cusco, and the truck drops her off, and she's like, "Well, where's the hotel?" They're like, "Just a couple blocks that way, right?" She gets out, looks down the street, and sees a couple of I don't know what police or military officers or something like that. And their uniforms with the sort of crazy like riding pants, they looked like very much like Nazi uniforms a little bit. And you could kind of see that another connection there to Raiders. Although inadvertent.
They knew they were going to be inspiring Raiders of the Lost Ark. They were like, we should put some Nazis in this.
because
So that
30
we can
years
take
down the
credit.
road,
Yeah,
someone's
we
gonna
can
make
take
a
credit
really
for Raiders of the Lost Ark.
popular movie.
In the original draft, I think Morgan had his face melted off, but instead they couldn't really pull that off in the movie, so they just threw him off the side of a cliff.
Well, I guess, obviously the inspiration wasn't that like, oh, they're gonna inspire Raiders of the Lost Ark, but like the first half of the movie really felt like Casablanca.
Yeah.
And the second half felt like, Treasure of the Sierra Madre a little bit, with the Charlton Heston character not succumbing to the lust for gold type of thing.
Why did you bring it back? I didn't take it away. All I did was find it, then get it back when Morgan tried to steal it. What's more, I've got a lawyer who can prove it.
But yeah, that Casablanca thing, I guess, perhaps that's what the uniformed military police or whatever they were in Peru at that time, perhaps that's what they looked like. But it also it kind of had that, Casablanca feel where it's like there's Nazis running around, just because of their crazy uniform. And she was so terrified of them. I mean,
yeah. What was her? She was just a defector. Was that her deal? She was making sure people didn't know she was going to be sent back to Romania. Is that how her story started?
Right. I mean,
she was trying to make her way to Mexico.
Well, she's trying to make her way to Mexico to then, I don't know,
to get America.
Get to America, crossing at TJ or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not clear why the Romanians were after her exactly, or at least I didn't catch it. If it was made more explicit, I mean, it sounded like maybe some Cold War intrigue because this is 54.
But I did get a mix up of Marion and Elsa Schneider from Last Crusade, kind of all in one with Elena
and some Willie Scott when they're in the jungle and they're
sure, good call.
And she's very uncomfortable.
Andy,
it's just a snake.
Yeah.
Oh God, what is this?
One thing is I don't think Marcus Brody ever hired the world's worst assassin to try to shoot Indiana Jones and then miss to kind of show Indiana
from Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
to show Indiana Jones, oh well, I'm really serious about this.
Who sent you? Stay down or I'll kick your head right out the window.
But he wasn't even really scared. He just came right back to the bar where he was at and was like, did you send that guy for me?
You caught me.
All right, yeah, it was me.
Not only that, then he breaks the guy's rifle and the guy's like, well, who's going to pay for my rifle?
I know. How crazy was it watching Charlton Heston smash a rifle?
Yeah.
From his cold, dead hands.
Yeah, didn't he have to kill the guy?
You missed. Now get this. I don't like your face. If I see it again, I'll change it for you.
No! The rifle! Who will pay for the rifle?
Also, I love how, the Harry Steele character, he's kind of he's a tour guide and kind of a hustler on the side, but he's really trying to spend his time, trying to get at these artifacts, or at least this one artifact, the sunburst thing. Throughout the movie, women are throwing themselves at him, particularly the
tourist,
the tourist woman who was like,
yeah,
her husband was right there. He's like, hey, why don't you go take a nap? Then I'll go hang out with this guy.
Didn't she call him out too for being like, what are you trading up already or something?
She was like, oh, we don't want to interfere with your private life. He was like,
well, you won't.
So he's kind of like Captain Ron in a way.
Yeah.
And that was what, like I feel like Indiana Jones hates tourists. I know that because of the Indiana Jones ride, where he's like, "Oh, why did it have to be tourists?"
Is that canon? Is that official?
Yeah.
It is now that Lucasfilm's been purchased. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I feel like if he fell on hard times, he would never be like, "Well, I could just be a tour guide and show people around,"
Right.
He'd go back to being a professor or something.
But I guess the women thrown at him, I guess, does happen in Raiders, right? It's like all the students anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love you on the eyelids and all this. No one's paying attention.
Neo meaning new with a ITH.
But another reason that the movie kind of felt a little like Secret of the Incas anyway. Felt like a little like Casablanca was that the guy who comes to sort of kidnap Elena, the Romanian guy with the private plane, felt a lot like Peter Lorre.
Yeah.
You know, in that scene where he gets pretty drunk, and it was like, was he gonna drug him? But then he just decides to clonk him on the head instead.
Yeah.
I almost feel like that could have been like an ad lib from Charlton Heston. Just the way that it was played out. Like he was like, "This is taking too long. Let's just hit him in the face."
Maybe it was like Harrison Ford shooting the guy for, you know,
Right.
he had this I'm just gonna hit him over the head with this thing.
That is the one thing that made me think, oh man, this is a pretty low budget movie. The fact that like she's gonna go. He's like, well, your room is right next to his, and you can just jump over the balcony and sneak into his room. She's like, why don't you do it? And he's like, well, he'll be much happier if he sees you in the room, which, you know, hashtag me too. But like, what's funny is she leaves and does that whole adventure heist thing that he explained to us with words. We don't see any of it. We watch him sit there and drink a cocktail, and she comes back. She's like, got it. And then the other character goes and does it off screen. That's the same thing.
Now was that her to go get the plane? Was that with...
No, it was to go get
It was like the keys of the plane or something. Like, you know,
yeah.
I mean,
Do
like,
planes have keys? It's like that Seinfeld joke of like
how are you gonna start it?
yeah. Like anytime your plane's delayed, really they just forgot the keys. Sorry.
But this is when they take this plane, they go toward Machu Picchu, and some of the best, I'd say, photography in the movie is displayed. It's a really cool shot of them seeing that big archaeological dig going on, and when they get into the more tomb raiding part of the Indiana Jones story, or Secret of the Incas story,
right? Exactly, where they meet the sort of straight-laced Belloc there.
He was a lovable Belloc.
Beloche.
Like he was the Belloc that I would have married him. You know, he had everything. He was a super nice guy, and he just, you know, he believed in archaeology, and
he got friend zoned pretty hard by Elena though. I felt bad for him. I thought he was gonna end up with her, but then, you know, Harry Steele's in the picture. You're not gonna man up to Harry Steele.
You're not gonna be able to compare.
Yeah, exactly.
Harry Steele is the perfect name for like an action hero created in the 50s. Like if you made an action hero now and you're like, I want to call him Harry Steele. That's like that's like when Homer Simpson changes. Like when Homer Simpson changes his name to Max Power. Like
Max Power, he's the man whose name you'd love to touch.
When they're in the jungle, that scene that I said is like Willie Scott.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that I was wrong about it, like everything there. So basically she's like, oh, I want to go to California. That's where the apples are from. And I was like, apples aren't from California. Apples are from Washington, right? Yeah. And then he's like, who cut down the cherry tree? And she's like, Abraham Lincoln. I was like, no, that was Washington. It was this whole scene dedicated to like
misinformation.
Washington, like.
Listen. I think that's really key to finding out why Moorhead, or whatever his name was, the Belloc character, got friend zoned so hard.
Yeah,
because, you know, later she's like, you know, who cut down the cherry tree? And, you know, he says the right answer, and he like scolds her for getting the wrong answer. And then she tests Harry again later, and you know, he's like, yeah, fuck it, Lincoln, doesn't matter. Like. What you say go.
Yeah. So basically she just wanted a yes man. But that's not even how I took it. I took it as, I didn't think he was scolding her. He was just like, no, it wasn't Washington, it was Lincoln. Like he was just telling her the right answer. And I honestly thought that Harry Steele just didn't know.
You know, the story's fucking horseshit anyway. Who cares? Like, you just let it be whatever answer it is. Harry had the right idea.
It is kind of a good, you know, shortcut for like 15-year-olds going out on their first date. Like, you're not cool if you're constantly correcting the person you're dating on every single fact they say. Like, no, apples are actually from Washington. Actually, Washington cut down the cherry tree. Yeah, just no, that's cool. That's cool. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Who cut down the cherry tree?
Abraham Lincoln.
I was kind of worried that this movie was just going to have a lot of these inspirational things and the movie itself wouldn't be too engaging, but it definitely was. I mean, like, and part of the reason I thought that it wasn't going to be too engaging was like, you know, the movie is super hard to find. It's, not on sort of video anywhere. It's definitely not streaming. Was it taken out of print because it was from the same studio that brought you Raiders of the Lost Ark, and maybe we don't want to have people see this one. I don't know. But, the movie has a lot of, great lines and everything in it, and, a lot of, cool moments. You get to see Ima Sumac perform a couple ditties. With her 18 octave vocal range or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know how the hell she was getting some of those notes, man.
It's crazy. But then, I love the little moments where Elena, the Romanian refugee or French woman, it's funny, I think the actress was French.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
She was supposed to be from Romania, yeah.
But she tells Ima Sumac that, you speak English very well. And she's like, yeah, so do you.
I thought for what 1953 did we say? I thought that was the best. Yeah. That was the best line in the movie because of that.
The very next one was probably the best one, which is as the Elena character dips into the hot springs there. The old lady who was in the room, she was like, Ayakanka, Ayakanka. And she's like, what the hell does that mean? He's like, oh, it means you're as white as a dead fish.
Yeah. And then Charlton Heston's just sitting there staring at her through the window. He's like, it's true, you are as white as a dead fish.
Yeah.
Ayakanka. Vale, mama.
I'd like to talk about the map room. I think that sequence was fantastic in Secret of the Incas. It's one of my favorite scenes in Raiders, and to see this version of it, which was almost more realistic when you think of it. It's a bunch of mirrors that are set up, that you find another mirror, and then the light shines, and then it tells you where to go. And in Indiana Jones, it creates a fucking laser. They're digging in the wrong place.
Well, not only that, when they're walking around the museum and they see the stone map of the city, looks just like the stone map, sort of a smaller version of the stone map in Raiders.
Yeah, and I also got the Last Crusade, where the shield was broken in half at Donovan's office, and he had the other half, and he had to make the rubbing of the other half. And this one, Charlton Heston had that other piece that was missing from the map, so he had the finish of the map. I thought that was interesting.
Even when they wrote Last Crusade, they were like, oh man, what are we gonna do? Let's go back to Secret of the Incas and steal some more shit.
Yeah.
I'm surprised there wasn't an X marks the spot in this or something.
When I was rewatching Raiders, when he walks into the room at the very beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark, he walks into the room and he sees the idol down that hall.
Yeah.
And behind him,
behind
it looks like the sunstone.
Sunburst.
What is it? Sunburst. Yeah, it's like a giant version of it. I'm like, so they're screaming, go watch Secret of the Incas. But Paramount's like, no. There's no Secret of the what?
Wait. What happened to Secret of the Incas? Where is it?
Top man.
Well, I read online, it was never on VHS. Never on DVD is one thing, but it was never on VHS either. So it's they never released it for home video.
It's a really great film. I enjoyed it from front to back. It would be one of those movies that I would watch over and over again if it turned up on Paramount Plus or something.
Yeah.
I would definitely.
Which is a perfect place for it to be. Hint, hint.
Right.
Come
on, bring these classics. I thought this was really good.
But it's funny. The one of the costume designers for Raiders gave an interview where she talked about how the whole crew would watch Secret of the Incas, and obviously they took the look from this Harry Steele character, and then they took a bunch of other sort of production design things, and obviously the story bits. But she was surprised. I'm surprised they didn't credit the movie at all.
Yeah.
But what's crazy is so much of it, the look, the little the crossbody pouch that he has, the little pistol, his button-up shirt, his leather jacket, the hat. Although the hat is way bigger in Secret of the Incas.
Well, they did the costume designers on Raiders talk about how long it took them to figure out the exact hat.
Right.
Which when I watched this movie, I was like, okay, well, you had a lot of time because you stole everything else.
Yeah. well, here's the thing. It was like that. I think that it was like they had this archetype in The Secret of the Incas. They're like, okay, but how can we make it look cooler? Well, what if Steve McQueen were wearing it? What about that scene in Papillon, right before he gets to the Leper Island, or right after the Leper Island? That would be a much better look. Perfect. The first 15 minutes of Raiders will be exactly that sequence out of Papillon.
Yeah. The one last thing about Secret of the Incas is the old guy at the end. He has a 6-shooter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's firing bullets like crazy. And once he gets past that 6th bullet, he's like, "Oh shit, my gun's not working anymore." It's like, well, yeah, you
stupid idiot.
Yeah, it's like you only have 6 bullets in the gun, and you're trying to shoot down like 30 guys chasing you.
Right.
Can't do the thing where all the Nazis stand in one line and you take one bullet through all of them.
No.
And then he's just like, oh, well, he clicks it like 17 times. He's like, okay, well, I guess there's no more bullets. He just throws it away.
Exactly.
Also, his speech about gravity at the end, like that speech would have been great if it was earlier in the movie when he's kind of holding Harry Steele captive and he's like, "You're going to help me find this thing." And he's talking about how rich you're going to be. He's like, "This is what it's like being old. Gravity becomes your enemy." Instead, he's like, "Gravity becomes your enemy." And 2 seconds later, gravity kills
like this?
him.
They should have given him the Wilhelm scream as he falls off the side of the
exactly. What's different about Papillon in this one is technically it's a true story based on an autobiography of Henri Chevalier.
Yeah. We'll just call him Papillon.
Yeah, we're just going to call him Butterfly Guy.
Or Steve McQueen.
Named Papillon because that's French for butterfly. He had a butterfly tattoo on his chest, played by Steve McQueen. I'm sure you guys can agree that this movie is absolutely incredible. Again, one of these that I had never heard of before this show, had never seen, and now it's one of my top 10s by far. It's so excellent. From start to finish, this was like an epic film, and the performances in it are fantastic. The violence in it is almost gut-wrenching in some parts, and like the truth that they expose or show for this penal institution in French Guiana is one of the most horrifying things I've ever seen. And they did a really good job stylistically as well as realistically. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, I don't know where I came across this movie originally. I mean, I saw it in like high school, and then I just kind of figured everyone had seen it. All like film nerd friends might have seen it. And like apparently the answer is no. But like, this is the same director as the guy who did Planet of the Apes, the original Planet of the Apes, and Patton. And then
won an Oscar for that.
Yeah, and then Steve McQueen, Dustin Hoffman are the two stars of this one. It's a prison film, and it's the sort of like maybe a template, you should say, for Shawshank. I think we talked about that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But it definitely has this section in the middle of like this adventure film where we can definitely see the connections to Raiders. But aside from that, I mean, it's like, it's just, it's a harrowing movie. And, despite the fact that it's 2.5 hours, I mean, like the movie feels like it just like moves. It's like really well paced.
Because you're in a different place every so often. I mean, they bring you to some new exotic location in some instances. You're just like, whoa, and it's a totally new frame of reference.
And even with the section where he's in solitary confinement for so long, it's like,
oh god,
that's one of the sort of slower sections, but you're just so riveted by what's happening,
Mm-hmm.
to the point where it's like, how like, okay, first offense you get 2 years, second offense you get 5 years, and then I don't know what, third offense you get the guillotine. When we got to the 5-year part, I was like, oh my god, like the first time I watched it, are we gonna have to do this again? But no, it's just like this like amazing like hard cut to him,
gray,
aging like 65 years because he had been in the hole for so long.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would argue that the like you said, Brian, the sort of being in a different place, like every like 10 minutes you're changed. I feel like that is what to me is the most like Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like before, I thought that Raiders of the Lost Ark kind of was one of the first movies like that, where it's like this happens and then this happens and then like there's never any dead space or dead time in that movie. You're just moving forward all the time. I had no idea that this movie was going to take me to all the places it took me, like to all the different places in the world. It was so insane how it's like it takes you on this journey and you have no idea where you're going at all, and then you end up back in the same place. It's crazy.
Yeah, it seems like this was kind of it was a mixture of the story that was telling the story of Papillon and his relationship to Louis Degas, who's played by Dustin Hoffman. And it was, was it about his escape or was it about his like obsession with wanting to escape all the time? And like, it felt like it almost became like a game to him. Like there's always a way out, right? There's always an escape. There's always a way out. And even when they got to Devil's Island, he risked his life to jump into the water to get out of there. And Degas kind of gave up, but he was a little supportive of his friends,
Well, but like, what's so great about that scene is like, Degas is talking to him and he's like, he watches him throw the bag of coconuts over and he's like, you won't live. And he's like, does it matter? It's like,
yeah.
Right. I mean, he wants to do it. And you're right. There is sort of like this, like almost a game about it. And then there's also like the, like, well, it couldn't be any worse than what I'm doing right now. So let's try this one.
Yeah. Not slapping pigs like Dustin Hoffman.
Or like when Dustin Hoffman like runs outside and he's like yelling at nobody. He's clearly like lost it.
Louis, if I could find a way to get off this island, would you like to come with me?
Oh, yes, of course. Get away, Freddie, you know better than that. Get away.
I mean, that I think might have become my favorite Dustin Hoffman role.
It's amazing.
Like, which is, I mean, Dustin Hoffman has a lot of amazing roles, but I have never seen this movie. And I was like, this might be the best Dustin Hoffman movie I've ever seen.
It's not him partway through the movie. Like, I lose that it's Dustin Hoffman. It's just his face has completely changed. The way he moves and talks and everything, it was completely different.
Well, and you needed someone that strong to be able to sell some of those moments where it's like, early on while Papillon is in the hole and is not giving up Louis' name.
That man risked his life to save mine. For me, that's a new experience.
You mentioned like some of the violence and stuff, and it's like, at certain moments, the blood looked, like the 3M stage blood. It had that really like sort of, Dawn of the Dead, sort of, pinkish orange quality to it, and looked really thick. But then, sometimes it felt very visceral, and some of those moments were definitely where it was feeling a lot more horrifying.
In terms of horrifying, the visuals of the leper colony that they went to scared the hell out of me. They shot all of those people in that real shadowy. Then you never really see the lead. I guess he's the leader of the tribe.
Right.
They never really see his face until like later on, and then he kind of leans into the light.
It's the one guy they could like afford makeup for.
Exactly.
Yeah. And he's got those like crazy, nubby fingers that he's holding that cigar with.
Smoking that. Yeah, exactly. He had like these kind of little fingers smoking the cigar, and he's like, here, take a puff of the cigar. And when he did it, I was like, oh God. It was hard to watch.
It's like, how'd you know I had dry leprosy? I didn't.
Just looked like a good cigar.
But it showed just how sort of desperate he was to get away from this prison colony, and he was willing to like risk leprosy to do it.
Do you like cigars? When I can get them.
I do want to talk about that guillotine scene because the way, like you were saying, how they kind of take you from scene to scene. Nothing is said in this movie without there being a payoff right away. Yeah. And that one was, if you go for 5 or if you try to escape twice, you get the guillotine, right? And they show it just cutting like a coconut or something. And then not like the next scene, somebody is thrown into the guillotine and we get a close up of this guy getting decapitated. It's like, holy shit.
And they drag him for, like 500 yards. She's just like screaming the whole time. And like, as they're like, putting his head into the like neck slot of the guillotine. He's still screaming, and the only thing that shuts him up is the thing taking his head off. It's so crazy. It's just like, it's so intense.
Yeah, it's brutal.
And how awesome was it to to see all those little little cameos in this too. Like, Billy Mummy was the kid who was sentenced to life at, age 17 or something, and then was shot the moment he got there, trying to run away. The Uncle Leo had a small role in this from Seinfeld.
Yeah.
He was one of the guards. The guy who was like getting everybody's shoes in the beginning. What was the guy who got kicked in the nuts in Young Frankenstein?
Give him another $1. Who was the lead leper? He seemed like he would be someone.
Yeah, he was great. He was in the Omega Man, but I.
Oh yes, exactly. That's exactly where I saw him before,
okay.
And also in makeup, right?
Yeah.
My favorite scene is just watching all the prisoners catching butterflies for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like.
Well, and then also how it ends is how much to take this butterfly, and he rips open his shirt to reveal his Papillon tattoo.
Yeah, that was pretty good. The weirdest part to me, it was the whole movie was awesome. I don't mean weird in a bad way at all. It's just the part that took me for surprise was, so he escapes. He lives happily for maybe a couple weeks, in this village with these natives on
right,
and then just wakes up one day and everyone's fucking gone.
They were gone. They were like nomads, right?
They left his ass behind.
They left him in the pearls though.
It was crazy because it seemed like they kind of were taking him in to the tribe or whatever. But apparently not. It was only to kind of
I thought they were trying to marry him.
Yeah. He had the woman seemed like she was in love with him, and they it was, and they took so much time. I mean, in relativity to the movie,
montage,
not a lot of time, but that montage, I was like, oh, I'm sold. This is his life now.
Exactly.
Great, he made it. And then he just wakes up and everyone's gone. I'm like, what the fuck?
There were so many times in this movie where I was like, oh shit, he made it. And he kept getting the rug pulled out from him every time. The nun sold him out.
Right.
It was like, come on.
I know.
The boat he got, and then luckily that trapper knew that there were those headhunters waiting for them at that rickety boat that they, he got sold out for. Man, that was another cool one with that trapper had those two guys killed. He's like, I just live out here, man.
Was the trapper's motive just to
Crocodile Dundee
mess with society? No,
he was chaos.
That's their world, man. I'm going to help you guys escape. I know you have nothing to give me, but I'm going to help you escape anyway because screw those guys. Screw authority.
I killed these guys
for
sport.
You like this? Right. I liked it too when I was drunk.
You like this?
Oh, very much.
I did too at the time, but I was drunk.
I wanted to bring up that scene when Papillon is first thrown into the solitary and he meets that fella that he basically becomes later on.
How do I look? I feel pretty good, but I need somebody to tell me how I look.
And Steve McQueen, too. Steve McQueen is one of these people who it's he's the consummate movie star, but never sort of applauded for his acting, I think. And I think in this one it's a little different. He actually sort of brings the heat with his performance. It's crazy because a movie like this needs somebody to be able to pull that off.
Yeah.
And if you were in charge of this movie, you'd be a little skeptical that Steve McQueen would have the chops to do it.
He really did do it, and
totally.
Everything. I bought everything, and I really enjoyed the dream sequences when he was going through that. Thought that was excellent, and even those could have been cheesy or pulled off strange, but they had a really cool ethereal feel to it. I thought they were successful.
The first one was a little El Topo. Or maybe I thought the Naked Indian was a little gratuitous, type of dream. But the second one was so cool when it was in slow motion as he's running through that, street full of leafless trees, and the camera on that techno crane that like flips upside down.
Just awesome, yeah.
Yours is the most terrible crime a human being can commit. I accuse you of a wasted life.
Before we do anything else with this one, I think we should, go into a little bit of the sequence why it's kind of included with these ones, which is that like right after the leper colony and they get to the whatever island where they're speaking Spanish, French Guiana, if you're not aware, is part of South America. But as soon as they get there, like they get rousted by the local cops or whatever they were, and they start chasing the dudes. He starts running off with one of the other. The cops had a prisoner with him, and like he Papillon just like starts running with that guy, trying to flee the cops.
Also, they just drop Dustin Hoffman. They're just like, "You're on your own."
Yeah, well, like, oh, his leg is rotting off. Sorry, dude. Like, you knew it was broken. He's like, but the Spanish prisoner, the Spanish speaking prisoner, looks like the guy who tries to attack Indy, and then Indy whips him at the very beginning. But he also kind of like is a little of the Alfred Molina role while they're sort of chasing through. Some of this the obstacles.
But you also, I want to step in real quick. You also see the Adios Stupido thing from Raiders of the Lost Ark happen in real time. Mm-hmm. The spike trap come up and kill somebody, but you see it happen as opposed to like, the body, Adios Stupido.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like and like so that moment obviously was very was very Raiders, and then wherever they are, the Spanish-speaking cops, like, bring out these headhunters with blow darts and whatever. Then there's that shot of Steve McQueen like running in slow motion and just like getting lit up with these darts, which very much looks like the like start the plane like shot in Raiders. But in Papillon, Steve McQueen's getting lit up with these darts, and then he doesn't have a plane to jump into, but he still kind of like swings and like dives into the water there. And man, his costume with that hat and his like open shirt, his 5 o'clock shadow,
totally,
and like the jacket and everything. I was like, oh my god, they totally were inspired by this one for Raiders.
Inspired.
Yeah.
They just left out the cocaine or whatever it was. Making every
the Alfred Molina guy gives him a little cocaina to chew on.
Oh, that's right. That's how he was like speeding him up, right? He was like, a coca leaf.
But,
that's right.
Like they'd get tired and be like, "Oh, put this on your tongue."
And at one point, I think they're like up at the top of the thing, and he kind of like asks for more. Like he's slowing down a little. He's like, hook me up with another hit there, buddy.
So after the whole situation where he's getting chased by the headhunters, he sort of washes up on Paradise Island, like you were talking about earlier, Alex. These guys, apparently this is not a permanent settlement. As we saw, they kind of packed up and left at one point, but they were out there like grabbing pearls or whatever, and like they were trading on some blanket with some skeezy guy, and the skeezy guy, I don't know why, but he just kind of like reminded me a little of the eye patch guy with the monkey in Raiders.
Yeah, exactly.
Like he just had
Seagull.
Yeah. and then the drummer goes, "Yeah, Seagull, come on, whatever."
That's the guy that poisoned the dates. He made the bad dates.
Bad dates.
I don't know if you remember how they like cut that scene together, but they showed the village, and they handed the pearls to I was going to call him Harry Steele. They hand it to Papillon. And then as he puts it down on the table, then it cuts to them making the trade. Yeah. It was like a really cool cut.
Because that is the guy they killed, right? And have like hanging upside down in the next shot.
Right.
But it's like they show him sitting on a blanket, having like this whole trade going on. And he's like showing his goods, and they're showing their pearls. And he's like, well, no, you got to give me more pearls for that. And they're like, okay, we'll do it. And then like the next scene is like, they just killed him anyway. They could have just killed him to begin with. Like they didn't need to play out this whole thing where they were trading with him and then killed him, because they took everything.
Right, exactly. But it was kind of like setting up a little bit more of the pearl thing, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
the worth of them, right?
Right, exactly. That like it's not just that they have sort of value to internally within this tribe, but also to the outside world with which they trade. But man, almost like that whole like sort of Tiki Island section of the movie. Like, how much did it kind of feel like the beginning of Thin Red Line? It had that it had a little Terrence Malick vibe.
What's this war in the heart of nature? Why does nature vie with itself?
When I started watching, I'm like, this is a fantastic movie. I don't see how it has anything to do with Indiana Jones.
Yeah. yeah. Definitely had to wait for it. Yeah.
But there is that like point, and all of a sudden, the movie just like it's almost like you turn on the Indiana Jones switch, and it's like everything changes visually, and you're like, oh, okay, got it.
And then in perfect sort of rhythm with this movie, then you go back to jail. It's like you're just in Indiana Jones world for like the third act, and then back to solitary confinement.
And then you get the Mother Superior, who's like, remember, in your soul and blah blah blah. In God we trust. All others pay cash. I don't know. We'll take your pearls for you. Thanks.
And still sell you out. I felt so bad at that point. That one bugged me. It bummed me out. Yeah.
And he's being so polite. Like when she knocks on the door, she's like, "Are you awake?" And he's like, "Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am." And he's like getting out, like he's gonna go like help them like do nun shit.
Right. He's like doing carpentry.
Exactly. Yeah, he opens the door and sees her, and then he's just grabbed by cops.
Cut to POV. Gosh. Exactly.
Yeah.
If you are sinful, you have made amends by feeding half the poor in Santa Marta. If you are truly not sinful, you have nothing to fear. God will watch over you.
Well, should we move on to this movie that no one here has ever heard of?
Right.
Raiders of the Lost Ark, I think it's called.
Yeah, we definitely should. Although, what do you say about one of the best action-adventure films ever made, and one of the most popular movies of all time?
And, rewatching it now, I think this movie holds up more than any movie from the 80s. It is so damn good on so many levels. It is nonstop, like you said. It's not a short movie by any means, but
that's true. That's true.
Like
feels
because
short.
It's bringing you to these different locales and everything. Yeah, it goes by at a clip, and all of a sudden you're tied up to the pole with Marion and Indiana Jones covering their eyes, waiting for everyone's heads to blow up, and you're like, okay. I mean, it's like it just comes through so quick. And again, this is my favorite one of the indie films by far. I'm glad that we watched this one. I'm looking forward to watching others, but yeah.
Yeah, same. I mean, by far, of the original trilogy, this is the best one, and we won't acknowledge the most recent one.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, I saw it once. It was so bad, I couldn't watch it again. But all the original trilogy, I've seen all of those movies a ton of times, including Temple of Doom. I know that movie. People have trouble with that one too, but I think it's good.
Temple of Doom's awesome.
It is awesome.
Indeed.
I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the gags that they pull off in this, the visual gags. There's the one that's straight out of an old serial when you see the shadow of the guy getting shot by the Tommy gun. You don't see him get shot, but you just see the shadow. And then with the car running over that guy, and you just see his arms and legs pop up, but it's filmed at a low angle, so he doesn't go. The car doesn't go over him, but it's so effective, and it's like so like violent, but at the same time like so like I don't know, digestible for everyone. It's got a cool mix.
No, absolutely. I mean, and there's all those like the very practical gags like you're talking about, like in like the timing of all of it, where he's fighting the sort of the 1910 weightlifting Nazi, like with the
bare knuckle boxer.
Come on!
Watching it again today, though, just the fact that he falls for the what's that on the ground? And the guy, maybe in the late 30s, early 40s, that wasn't as outplayed as it is now. But the fact that he falls for that.
I love the sound design of this. When Indy hits people in this, it sounds like almost like an instrument.
Yeah.
It's this like big punch. And that fight in particular, when he starts wailing on that big German bare knuckler, and he's just like, that's 3 punch on him, and it's just like he turns around, he's just covered in blood. Yeah. Like, oh man, it's so good. It's so powerful.
When I was in high school, I went to a screening where the sound designer like talked afterwards, and he talked about how like the Jeep during that chase scene where like Indy's underneath the car and stuff, how he added the sounds of like wild animals to the engine of the Jeep. Yeah, like a lion sound or tiger sound, like to the Jeep.
It was almost that like raging bull in a boxing scenes where it's just like these crazy noises that like wouldn't make any sort of logical sense, but like they sort of make emotional sense.
Totally. And you don't hear it like when you're watching. You're just like, oh, that's the Jeep. That's the sound of a Jeep.
Right. Right. Exactly. Kind of like you're saying, like the pacing of the movie, it's like nonstop, and it's so crazy, and like, each new character you meet. I mean, it's hard to remember now because you just have everything so memorized, but like, you're not sure if you can trust these different people that you're meeting. Even the Cairo, City of the Living. What's that guy's name?
Salah.
Dude, I was thinking about that when I watched it this time. I was like, if I was watching this movie the first time, I don't know if I would have trusted
He was hired by the Nazis, right? Like all the other...
All
the other diggers in Cairo.
Of course I trust him because I know he's Sulla.
Sure.
And I'm like, oh, that's like Indiana Jones's closest
his buddy.
And how often is John Rhys Davies going to be a bad guy? That guy is too lovable to be a bad guy.
Yeah. well, but also like, but there's that moment where like the arc goes up and Indy's still down there, and he's like, it seems like he's been betrayed or whatever.
When he's talking to Belloc in the bar wherever it is that they are, and then they act like they're going to kill him, and Sulla's kids come and save him. Like if Sulla was a double agent, that would have been a sweet move right there, because then it's like, oh, I'm going to trust Sulla.
Perfect fake
and
out.
Indiana Jones going to show Sulla where the Ark is, and then the Nazis have the Ark, and we're just going to leave him down there.
Next time, Dr. Jones, it'll take more than children to save you.
Yeah, so many great lines there.
I love Belloc. He is my favorite villain in any of the Indiana Jones films. He in my opinion was like the direct nemesis of Indy. Like he could have been a continued character had his face not blown up at the end of this one. But he would have been one of those great like long-term villains, I think, and played so well.
He could have been in Temple of Doom as a prequel,
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Showed up.
That was a prequel, wasn't it?
It happens before the events of Raiders, but yeah.
Like you were saying, the Indiana and Marion being tied to the post is kind of like the postmark for like this is the end of the movie. For me, it's when Belloc swallows a fly.
Yeah,
that's so weird. Like that goes right in his mouth, right? Like
I'm like, watching that, just like, well, it's the best take. I mean, we should use it.
Gotta use it. I mean, that's a badass, right? Eating flies, because you don't really see him eat much during the film. I don't think he sleeps much either. He was up all night with Marion, and they go right into the thing where they find Indy digging. I think he was drunk and still going.
Yeah,
still partying.
Marion, you are beautiful.
You think of the way they introduced the ship captain, for that little hiatus where like they get the Ark back for a second, hide it with the truck, and then like okay, we got to the ship. He also was trying to play up that untrustworthy character to the Nazis. But even before that moment, like the way they sort of introduce him, and he like lights a cigarette, away from the characters, but like really close to camera, and like you're like, oh no, are we supposed to be able to trust this guy? We all know sort of where all this is going, so it's like it's hard to have that effect when you watch it 5,000 times, but like it is interesting, like trying to imagine what it would be like seeing this. Like imagine if like you're watching this the way you watch Papillon, right?
And unfortunately, I'll never be able to watch this for the first time again. And I would love to erase this one from my memory just to watch it again, because it's so good. Because I never even thought about that. Like Sulla being potentially, a double agent, or even Katanga, the ship captain.
Well, I don't think as a kid I even watched them I don't think I watched them in order. I think the first thing I think I saw Temple of Doom first at like a slumber party because my friend got it at McDonald's on VHS when they gave like the VHSs with Happy Meals sometimes.
Wait, what? I don't remember that.
When they had chilled monkey brains as the Happy Meal.
My friend got Temple of Doom and we watched it like at a slumber party, and I was like, this is awesome. And then I was like, I need to see every Indiana Jones movie. But that was my introduction, so it's like,
Same.
Yeah, if you don't watch him in order, then there's no way you're not going to trust Sulla because he's Sulla.
I got to see Last Crusade in the theater. That was the only one I got to see. But recently, not recently, a couple years ago, I saw at the New Bev, I got to see Raiders on screen.
Cool.
But that was a really good one, yeah. And they played the black or the red mask, an old serial I mean, some of those shots that were used in, like that one I was talking about, the shadow of the guy getting shot, it was used in that same serial, and it was like, okay.
Yeah.
So they did steal everything. Got it.
You know what's funny? Like, I was kind of torn about, when I was thinking about this one, it was like, okay, Secret of the Incas, for sure. I was kind of torn about Papillon, thinking that, maybe there would be a better place to put it and some other film block. But I was thinking about that serial, The Raiders of Ghost City, where one of the, not the lead character, but one of the main characters is named Idaho Jones.
It's totally different.
But, I ended up watching some of that one, and plot-wise, it has nothing to do with it. But, I mean, they stole the sort of title and maybe the main character's name, but like, and then there's a bunch of other films I'm sure we could have also included, maybe Lawrence of Arabia, particularly for the sort of digging scenes.
I think that was originally on your list for this one.
It was, and and a lot of the Indiana Jones theme kind of came out of Lawrence of Arabia. But I think, Papillon influenced score-wise, the Jerry Goldsmith score in that one. You could hear some of the Raiders in that.
Can we talk a little bit about the staff in Raiders of the Lost Ark?
The staff of Ra?
Yeah.
The staff and okay, so let's just think about this logically. The dude who's reading the medallion, right? He's like, okay, the staff needs to be, what does he say, like 6 Qadams high, and then Indiana Jones for us, he's like, oh well, that's clearly like that would be 72 inches, so right. Like, okay, so a Qadam is a foot,
right?
Pretty easy. And then he's like,
then take back.
Yeah, and then take back 2.
I think the take back 2 was like he put it in the wrong peg, right? Because like he sees where where the Nazis had used it or whatever.
So the staff is supposed to be what, like 6 feet tall?
It's supposed to be the 6 Qadams or whatever.
6 Qadam height. Yeah. Okay. Why? What's the question though? Sorry.
All right. Sorry. Go ahead,
I was under the impression that it was 6 feet minus 2 feet, so now it's 4 feet.
They did say that his staff was too long.
Is Indiana Jones walking around, and it's like it's foot
taller
higher
than him.
So, he's like
that's a very good point. Yeah, unless a Qadam is like 8 feet or I don't know. Yeah, whatever.
What about the height of the staff, though?
It is here. This was the old way. This means 6 Qadam high.
About 72 inches.
Wait! And take back 1 Qadam to honor the Hebrew god whose ark this is.
But how cool was it how they explained how they were digging in the wrong place, and they just do it in one shot when you see Ermac's hand with the one side of the medallion. And I didn't catch that at first, when I first saw that movie, but that was a really cool moment where they're like, oh, that's how they know. That's how they could figure out what the medallion looked like.
Well, I mean, you brought up another thing. It's like, there are so many good, Spielberg oneers in this. These setups that don't look like they'd be oneers, they're not like show-offy oneers, but they are, in fact, oneers. I mean, like the drinking scene, at the Napoli's bar or whatever, and like that's just all one shot, and it's 14 different setups in one shot, and like I'm sure it made Michael Caan's life really easy when he was putting that scene together.
Yeah.
Oh, so circle take. Yeah, I'll take that one.
Yeah, so I just hit play.
But it also like it's super dynamic, and like it feels like a dozen different shots put together, and it feels so like effortless, especially when you consider the timing of the one who loses that drinking contest, and like how the like face freezes on a smile, and you just don't know when they're gonna like lean back and fall over, but it just like, every single time it's just like
I just love how you see his hand kind of come in and like crawl after the glass, like it's trying to find it. It's really funny.
How crazy was the ending of this movie? It's like it ends on this really, really creepy note, and then as the guy sort of rounds the corner into the warehouse of all of the world's plunder, it just like cues up the indie theme song sort of for no reason. It's just like, oh yeah, no, let's end it on a good note. Okay, let's go.
In the movie that we will not mention, they said that was Area 51. Actually, that we find out that hangar is Area 51 that has all that stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna make a note to cut this part out of the podcast.
Yeah. Oh God. It never happened.
Yeah, never happened. Instead of like having really cool, like sound effects of lions and whatever with trucks going, well, you can just have Shia LaBeouf swinging with animated monkeys. See,
that was the
it's
worst.
just as thrilling.
Yeah.
But I do have to say, I read Frank Darabont's script for Indiana Jones and the Saucermen from Mars, I think it's called, and it was kind of the same story. I mean, it was aliens based or like ancient civilization based, but it was such a better story than what we actually ended up with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
It wouldn't take much.
No, exactly. Yeah. But this one, it was a really good script. I mean, it was fun to read. So,
well, George Lucas always wanted to do like an alien Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah,
I think for Temple of Doom, right? That was his idea. And Spielberg talked him out of it because Spielberg was like, "Well, I just did Close Encounters and E.T. Was E.T. before or after that?" And he kind of was like, "I don't want to be known as like the alien guy. Let's just do something else." But it was in an interview that they did after this movie had gotten such bad reviews and everything. And Spielberg's like, "Yeah, I talked him out of it." And then it was like when he came back and let's do it for the fourth one. I was like, okay.
I mean, if it was done well, it would have worked. It just wasn't done well in any way.
I understand the concept of like Indiana Jones in the 50s, Cold War, and aliens. It totally makes sense.
Yeah, right. It works.
It could have been a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
I understand why it would have been good. But, and I don't know if you guys ever heard this, but I remember when they were making that movie, hearing that Steven Spielberg only wanted to use visual effects that were available when they made Raiders of the Lost Ark. But
I don't think they did that.
No, well, but George Lucas, obviously, this is still when he owned LucasArts, and LucasArts is a huge visual effects company. And it's like every movie is an advertisement for why you should hire them to do your visual effects. So it's no, we have to use state-of-the-art effects. And it's like, it just doesn't fit the other movies.
It was an animated Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
But again, and then you go back to this movie, and it is, I mean, all practical. Obviously, for the time, that would make sense. But, it's really good practical, and it's like gags and like these like in-camera effects that they pulled off, and they're just, I love that one, like you were talking about with the tour guide that has the darts in his back. You don't see what happens to him. He just falls down, and he's got 150 darts in his back. Like, that was really awesome.
Well, and just think about how much more thrilling it is to watch Indy, lower himself underneath the truck and then, hang on to it by the whip and then climb back over, and then
like pulling down the grates of the front of the car.
right. And then you kind of get the sequel to that sequence with the blonde Nazi guy having to try to do that himself, and he can't do it. And then he gets run over. That way, it also has more of an impact when he's on the boat and just everything hurts except for his elbow. And
Here. I love when she flips that mirror over and slams him in the head.
What'd you say?
I thought, like one more thing is that I love the story behind this one too, because that's pretty well known that Hitler was really into, the supernatural and studied all that stuff, and
the occult,
had real excavations and things going on at that time to try to find these ancient artifacts to try to make his army invincible. And I thought that was a great through line for this. And, to put like the worst enemy of our hero in there, I guess it's a Nazi, right? It's the Nazis. And, they did a great job of that. It worked.
Oh, man. Yeah. And how great was the Herr Mack?
Herr Mack, yeah.
She calls him at one point, like, how great was he as the, skeezy Nazi, slightly Peter Lorre type?
The bar is closed.
We are not thirsty.
And then the other, sort of Nazi, commander or whatever he was, with they had car door jawbones.
Exactly. He gets it really bad at the end too. Like he just goes like that.
We are not in the position to ask for anything. We will take what we wish, and then decide whether or not to blow your ship from the water.
The TV show that I'm working on now, they have to do some kissing scenes, and because of COVID, they're actually using the same exact effect that they used with the Cobra and Harrison Ford and Raiders of the Lost Ark. So they put a piece of plexiglass between them, and they kiss, and then they just pay someone to erase the plexiglass and kind of adjust their noses a little bit and make sure it doesn't look like they're smushing up against glass. But I was like, this is the same thing they were doing in 1981.
The version I watched, though, I could not see that reflection. I wonder if they've removed it digitally in time.
Oh, no.
I can't imagine they did, because there's so much stuff in that movie where, I mean, I was watching it on iTunes, on Apple TV, and there's so much stuff in that movie that I was relieved that they didn't touch, like the ray of sun coming and hitting the stone, and it's not that it looks bad, but it looks like it was 1981 when they did it, right? And I appreciate that when I watch it. I'm like, oh, it still looks the way that it always looked, as opposed to being some weird computer animated ray that comes out.
Yeah, there's only one 80s type shot that bothers me, and it's right after you see that amazing silhouette of the diggers and Indy against that big sunset. But then it goes to this green screen or blue screen background of the cloudy
of the sky, the Ghostbusters.
The Ghostbusters background, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
It's funny because the ray going through the medallion also reminds me of Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
It's all very it's
same laser.
It's the Ghostbusters.
It's the same guy doing the special effects, so it makes sense, I guess.
Was Richard Edlund?
Yeah.
Don't look right! Keep your eyes shut!
But yeah, you're right, Alex. I didn't notice the plexiglass with the snakes either this time, and I wonder if they, somehow changed it. But it could just be that I missed it. I mean,
I looked for it, but
it's one of those things where did anybody notice it the first time they watched it, or did you notice it after somebody's like, oh, if you look at this thing, you can see the reflection in the glass.
Yeah, I noticed it after.
Yeah, if you're into the movie, you're not gonna.
Because it's a killer shot. I mean, he jumps down, and then that Cobra and him are in this. It's just a really good frame.
Yeah.
It's a great shot, and then they do it again with Marianne.
This whole place is Slytherin.
Asps, very dangerous.
You go first.
Yeah.
Indy, why does the floor move?
All right. Oh, this was a great episode. Thanks so much for joining. Next week, we will be taking a look at 60s World War II action movies, specifically with the focus of fucking up Nazis. I'm reading the text message as we go here, which I can't wait to title that one. We're going to be focusing on 3 films: The Train, The Dirty Dozen, and Where Eagles Dare. This is going to be an exciting one, because it's killing Nazi season, I guess, on this podcast.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. It was the perfect sequel to this episode with, Indy kicking some Nazi ass. We'll get Burt Lancaster and Lee Marvin, Clint Eastwood doing the same. No, it should be fun, and we'll have someone to guide us through it all.
Awesome. Alex, where can our listeners find you, and what are you working on?
Yeah, you guys can. Right now, I'm working on a documentary project about Donn Beach, Donn the Beachcomber. So you guys can follow that on everything at the Donn of Tiki, and it's the DONN of Tiki. Instagram, Twitter, wherever you follow people.
We'll have to put that in the description just in case they try to spell it with one N or with an A.
That sounds exciting. Donn the Beachcomber.
Yeah. I mean, it's yeah, I'm sorry. I'm a couple zombies in at this point, but yeah. Yeah, it's cool. Like we've been working with a lot of people who have known him in his life and who are still alive and able to tell us stories. And
awesome.
It's cool because he's a guy who told a lot of stories about his life and told a lot of stories that clearly could not be true about his life. So it's cool to kind of try to decipher what's real and what's fiction and what everyone thinks they know about.
It's legendary. It's like legends. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. That sounds exciting. Yeah, we'll definitely have to share that out. All right. Thank you so much for listening. Please make sure to subscribe and follow us on all the podcasts and social platforms at the Grindhouse Institute. And if you really want to give us a boost, check us out on Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review. It helps us to get noticed. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll be back next week.
Ciao.
Well, gentlemen, I guess that just about wraps it up.
Where is the Ark?
The Ark is somewhere very safe.
From whom?
We have top men working on it right now.
Who?
Top men.